It's in this game right here because it's game number 1, picks and bans, Rival versus Dignitas. And now's finally the chance to see how these two titans from EU are really going to battle it out.
This is where the homework has trying to shine here. Alpha Jackal in the background of Team Rival. Chronos, that first ban, not surprised considering Zeros really likes his mage ADCs in the mid lane.
And of course, you can never really count out the fact that whenever it comes to a LAN environment, you're not really looking for the standard meta banouts as much as you're looking to usually target out a member or two from the enemy team.
That's what it was completely in that last entire set, where it was actually Elevate banning the Kukulkan and the Osiris against Zalia, whereas on the flip side, Obey Alliance kept continuously targeting out Cherio, the Athena, and the Naja earlier on. But this time around, Dignitas taking away this RDO, a little flexibility with that pick always.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting here because Dig being the higher seed actually chose second pick. Obey did that as well, whereas in NA, both of us and Luminosity took first pick. And that's interesting to see them ban RDO. That was something that Elevate prioritized very highly from the first side, so I don't know if Rival and Elevate scrimmed a lot and if they have kind of a similar pick ban thing.
Is it more of an idea of wanting to become maybe Chaos side more than the Order?
With them choosing second pick?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. It depends on how they want to play the map. So if they decide they want pressure in solo lane, for example, and they'd want Variety to have a counter pick, obviously you get that on the second side.
Well, it's not like any of us haven't seen this one before, but it's going to be Fafnir as that first pick selection for Arrival. And Mike, what do you think about prioritizing the support this early on?
I think that is likely one of Kalos' best gods, if not his best god. They do give up Hoi here, which is obviously a very strong ADC, and then Rat. So this tells me that Dig wants to play very aggressive early and that Rival's going for more of like a mid-game thing with the Fafnir.
And the Fafnir could also set up Rival in a spot where they could run a mage ADC in the mid lane potentially with a physical hunter in that dual lane and then really get some objective control.
Well, Fafnir is really flexible in general because his Coerce allows you to also run double hunter should they choose to do that. So they have a lot of flexibility, and then obviously Deathwalker and Osiris main.
And that was actually what I was just about to ask you. With the selection of Fafnir this early, do you think that there's a possibility that Rival just tries to 3-man stack those Guardian, Warrior, heavy gods for the front line and then look for that double ADC composition?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. With an Osiris, maybe not so much. I don't know what magical jungler they would run, maybe if they put a Guardian jungle, but normally you would see a Guardian solo to try to do that. With the Osiris, I feel like it'll be more of a standard comp putting Wolfie on a mage, but I mean, we could still see.
And if you're thinking about Wolfie for mages against a Who You Ratatasker, you can only imagine that Dignitas is probably going to maybe look for a Morrigan here, considering that's what Zeros likes to go ham with.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because that's Zero's best god by far, I would say, and Rival banned out Chronos, and then they picked Odin, so this tells me that they're probably predicting a Morrigan pick, and they want the Odin to try to prevent that, so Dig ends up going Bellona for Variety into the Osiris.
Bellona is not an easy god to bully in that solo lane whatsoever. A very traditional matchup in that lane of Osiris versus Bellona. I don't expect too much gank attempts in that lane. I'm expecting more just action around the buffs instead.
But still, with both of the mages not having their pick selected yet, would it be in both teams' best interest to try and ban away some of those mid-mains that you'd expect?
Possibly. I think if you're a Rival, you maybe want to leave it a little more open-ended other than the Morrigan, because if I'm looking at their comp, I feel like their early game is already set on the Fire Giant side of the map with the Odin and the Osiris, and I would look towards more of a scaling mage for the mid lane.
If there's any mage to be picked here from Dignitas, I would expect it to be the Soul.
Right,
knowing Zeros and the Sapray going through that Odin cage as well is not an easy opportunity for Rival to really lock down that goddess. So I'm expecting maybe a Soul ban here.
Yeah, I'm thinking if I'm Dig and I pick that Bellona there, what's going through their minds is Raijin, Morrigan, and Soul are all open, and they have next pick, so they're guaranteed one of the three. So it'll be interesting if Rival lets two of those open to trade it.
And with Ra being the last one banned away for Dignitas, but Rival already have Fafnir, Osiris, and Odin. Is there some concern here for Rival that they're not going to have enough AoE damage spread within that Odin cage to get the target burst that they need?
I think that'll really depend on the carries they pick, but I think for the most part, if you just isolate targets in the cage, I think Osiris being able to zone out their backline, you could basically kill anyone in the cage with a Fafnir. You just stun them and then buff your teammates. So I think it'll be okay regardless. And then you do see the Soul ban.
And I think there's plenty of AoE damage to pair up with this Odin, whether it's going to be the Zeus in mid or also even the Scotty in the dual lane. They're just dropping that permafrost inside the cage, and if anyone doesn't have the escape to get out of there, it's just going to be ping-ponging around.
And, I mean, we've already talked about it with the Bologna Ratatasker and the Hu Yi. Clearly, aggression is Dig's main stance in this first game. But when you're taking away the Soul and you're taking away the Morgan, and, well, I mean, that's the answer right away. It's going to be the Thoth, actually, as the next pick for Dig.
Now, Thoth's not going to be able to get out of the cage necessarily, but you can sit so far back away that you could just drop the artillery from a distance.
That's actually really interesting to me that Dig went for the Thoth over a Raijin here that, I mean, it struggles against Odin way more. I don't remember Zeros playing Thoth much at all during the pretty much majority of the online portion of this year. So that's really, really interesting to me. I'm not sure if I prefer that pick over Raijin.
I think that Thoth can separate himself a little bit better than a Raijin can, the way he can just dash away with great distance against the Osiris potentially that can just pound on a Raijin that's in his ultimate form anyway.
The Zeus is very interesting. It was a god that was buffed prior to this LAN, and then AMC going to the bottom pick. Zeus is really interesting because that gives you the follow-up in the Odin cage, like you were saying earlier. And if a Thoth gets trapped in there, if a Rat without his ult gets trapped in there, that's going to be a big problem for Dig.
And with the Ganesh being the final lock-in for Dignitas, already two pretty different playstyles, I'd say, from both of these drafts. Dignitas mostly prioritizing the sole focus on one member, I think, with the Ratatasker Thoth combination.
I think it's interesting because you see Dig drafted very strong side lanes, obviously Hoyi for Arkle, and then the Rat and the Bologna combo for the Fire Giant side. And Rival is more so looking to take grouped fights around probably the mid 3v3 trio with the Odin, Zeus, Fafnir. So it'll just be who gets to dictate the early game better and pick better fights. It's hard to really tell which comp I like better. I'm concerned about the Thoth, though. I think mainly from this draft, I think that's the one thing that really stands out.
Thoth is the one wildcard factor that I'm seeing from Dignitas, but I'm seeing Rival's composition. It just kind of feels like this one-trick pony. If they get the Odin-Zeus combination off, it'll work wonders in spades. But if Dignitas gets some Phantoms online and just walk away from it, then they should be relatively fine. So I think that Dignitas has a more safe and standard composition that could just outlast Rival in the long run.
Possibly. The thing about the Odin-Zeus combo, though, is I feel like Fafnir AMC can still pick off the front line so incredibly easy. I mean, Bologna, after she uses their ult, is, you know, one hammer will kill her. Same with Ganesha.
And I'm assuming that there's going to be a little bit of concern there as well for both of these teams. But, of course, we've got the drafts locked away. Game number 1 is about to take off. Mike, who you got winning the first one?
I think I prefer Rival's draft in this game.
Well, actually, I have Dignitas for this one.
You got Dignitas? Well, I'm going to wait and see what happens. Okay, Rival, it's taking my vote. Now let's find out from the casters what happens.
Thanks a lot, guys. It's Tom Pattinger, joined here by Ryan Bailey, and we've got a fantastic game after the set that we just watched. Oh. It's going to be tough to live up, but I mean, Dig Rival, if anybody can do it, it's these guys.
Without a doubt. I mean, we came in today saying, you know, once we get through that Obey Elevate set, which should be pretty good, but it's the main ticket, you know, here at the end, Dig Rival. Well, if it can do even half of what Obey Elevate gave us, then it's going to be one of the best days of Smite in recent memory.
Yeah, I mean, when you looked at what happened there with Elevate and Obey, it was interesting. It was a nice set that was pretty close. And then Game 5, I mean, they just no more granny shifting. They threw it right into extra gear.
Classic Game 5, man. Game 5s never seem to be close in Smite for whatever reason. I mean, the first 4 games so tough. I mean, in that set in particular, Game 4 was heavily in Obey's favor, and then in Game 5 it was just more of the same. I really just think that Hazer and the rest of the Obey guys figured out what Elevate wanted to do picks and bans wise, and Elevate wasn't able to adjust.
Which is interesting. I'm glad that you brought that up, because as we come into Dig Rival, you know, I was speaking to both sides, and Rival says, Rival was like, look, you know, we've seen what Dignitas does, and we're looking to sort of like work around that. And Rival is the team with the wide god pools. So we're seeing nothing too spicy right here. I think Odin and Zeus are a little bit You're venturing outside of the same gods that we see time and time again.
Sure.
Are they going to work?
I think they could. And as they mentioned on the desk, the 3v3 core here for Rival is going to be really, really key. How well can they trap that Thoth in and use that Zeus ult to blow him up? That is just a classic call-out, basically. 2 zeros is God pool. Banning away the Soul, banning away the Chronos, and then saying, yo, Raijin's a perfect pick here. Get out of Odin cage, get that mid-pressure that synergizes great with the Ratatasker. Raijin's perfect. Are they going to pick it? And they don't. They go for the Thoth, which is a little bit more of a comfort pick for Zeros, but certainly did not fit the draft as well as the Raijin would have. Intelligent picks and bans from Rival. It's just a matter of if it's going to end up working out in the end.
You know, when we talk, when you talk about the identity of these teams, though, Rival is the squad that's going to come with intelligent picks and bans. And, you know, at the end of the day, Dignitas, Biggie, they do a great job in doing that, but they can also just beat you up. I mean,
yeah.
Dignitas has won this split, you know, just basically on being better than their opposition.
That's their calling card. I mean, as soon as this team was formed with Variety's new team, you know, coming out of the Challenger Cup with these 5 players, everyone was like, there's no doubt that they can beat anyone on Earth just with pure mechanics and skill. Yeah. How well could their personalities mesh? How well can they pick and ban? How well can they get along outside of the game in order to keep that cohesion going into game? Those were the questions regarding Dignitas at the beginning of the split. All of those are basically gone because they've proven that they can pick and ban well, that they can manage their egos well and work together as a unit very well. Now it's when teams start to adjust to what they are picking, how well can they adjust mid-set? They did a good job against this exact Rival squad at DreamHack Valencia in a really great 5-game set against them where Dignitas ended up on top winning that DreamHack Valencia LAN. Can they do the same here?
I think it's all up to this guy. Arco right here. What a trip that he has had. He was the one question mark when this team started at the beginning of the year. You mentioned Variety's new team as they were mentioned before they got picked up by Team Dignitas, and it was Variety, superstar, Zeros, superstar, Trix and Cuvo as the package. Those guys are superstars, right? And then Arco was this guy that, like, he played on Sanguine, okay, but he had that raw skill.
Yeah.
And I think we watched that first split, and we were like, all right, can you do it again? And then we watched the summer split, and we were like, all right, we're a little scared. And then this fall split, I mean, I got nothing else to say. This guy's the real deal. I think this LAN, he's going to go nuts.
Arkil is one of the best hunters in the world, full stop.
Yeah.
There's no questions asked in my mind. I mean, you're looking at a guy who has not only played really, really well during his time with Dignitas, but even going back to that Sanguine team that really was surrounded, he was surrounded by a lot of players who weren't quite at his level, at the top SPL level. You look at this guy's LAN stats and keep in mind that a lot of those games were with that worst roster, and his average damage per game is one of the best in the world, and that's on a bad team. Like this guy has been consistent throughout his whole career, and as he's matured, as he's gained that extra experience and been around this team environment that allows him to learn and play at a top level, it's formed into one of the most potent players in Smite.
And I love talking to him too, talking to Arkle. He's very just cool, calm, and collected. Exactly kind of how you see him on the screen. Is just going around to the players. You know how you expect this game to win. You know, Trix and Cuvo, they're all amped up. They're like, yeah, man, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Zeros has his headphones on, and he's listening to this really like light not techno, but like electronic music, just really like very light. And he's just like, I'm listening to my tunes, just very like, let me listen to my tunes. You know, so Arkle, who's gonna win? And he's like, we're gonna win 3-0 really quickly. Just like that. That's exactly how he says it. Very, I don't want to say emotionless because I'm sure there's a ton of emotion there, but just very confident.
I mean, clearly something's going right in France. They're breeding these ADCs who are just sick. I mean, Arkil, Jermaine, these dudes are 2 of the top ADCs in the world, certainly in Europe right now. Jermaine having a great showing during that last set that we saw earlier on today, and now it's Arkil's job to try and follow up, do more of the same.
Yeah, it's working out pretty well for Arkil so far. And, you know, I also spoke to the guys on Rival.
What did they say?
Well, I spoke to a couple of them. I spoke to Alpha Jackal, and he was pretty excited about his draft. But I also spoke to the jungler.
Ice Baby?
Yeah, Ice Baby. He had a lot to say, actually.
What did he say to you, Tom?
So I said, you know, how are you guys going to win? Like, are you guys going to do well? And he goes, yeah, I think it's probably going to be like a 3-1, maybe a 3-0. That's exactly how he said it.
I will tell you, folks at home, that I talked to Ice Baby a couple times so far here at LAN, and I don't think he said
That's exactly what he sounds like.
I really, you're just literally spreading false information.
No, that's exactly. I will do an interview. It's exactly what he sounds like.
Please do.
Yo, Ice,
he's busy. He's about to play.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Afterwards, if Rival win, I formally request that you interview Ice Baby.
Only if they win.
Only if they win.
All right, only if they win. If they lose, then we'll just never.
The world will never know.
Well, it'll be like a Tootsie Roll. We'll just never know.
Yes, that is a reference.
Either way, Dignitas and Rival, they got to figure out how to beat each other. And like I was talking about earlier, Rival seems to think they have this one all figured out. Dignitas think that there's not much to figure out. They're just going to come with the same old stuff.
Well, talking to the players around the venue, and a lot of them are favoring Dignitas, and in some in pretty dominant fashion, 3-0, 3-1. But also a lot of players seem to think that Rival have got a sneaky chance at beating them. I was talking to Ataraxia right after his set, and he said that he feels like Rival's got the best potential matchup against Dignitas, that no team will give Dignitas as much trouble as Rival will. And again, think back to how well they played against each other at DreamHack Valencia. That was a 5-game set that was very back and forth, where it looked like Dig was going to dominate with a quick 3-0. Rival bounced back with 2 wins. Dignitas ultimately ended up winning, but you could see where the matchup can kind of give them trouble. Variety had trouble with Deathwalker at times in that set, especially whenever Deathwalker started pulling out that Ares solo and the weird stuff like that. You know that Rival's going to have weird stuff prepared for this LAN, and a lot of it just in case. Now, at the beginning here, this first game, we've already seen the picks and bans. Nothing too weird quite yet coming out of Rival. I mean, the Odin in the jungle is something they played pretty consistently during this fall split, but it's just enough Rival that you know it's their type of team comp, and that they can try and hold on to whatever sort of weird picks they've got until later on and when they might need them more desperately.
I mean, plus there's also some really nice just built-in synergy. You got Zeus Odin. I mean, that's one of the oldest composition tricks in the game. I mean, right? You just put the circles on top of each other and nobody can escape, and Zeus just kind of eats breakfast. So I'm interested to see if that one will work or if Dignitas is going to be smart.
I think that it has potential for sure, and as I mentioned, as they mentioned on the desk, the side lanes are going to be a little bit stronger for Dignitas. The mid 3v3 is going to favor Rival, and it's just a matter of if Rival can force Dignitas to fight them fight Dignitas where they want to. Can they force you to fight?
Watch this.
Okay, I'm watching. It's a nice play.
That's nuts.
Vote is one of those guys that it doesn't get talked about as much with Rival, but when you look at his LAN stats, they're actually really, really impressive. His deaths per game is the lowest in all of Europe, tied with Adapting. And Adapting stats are so good that I literally just ignore them most of the time because they throw off the entire curve. He's like the guy in your class that gets 120% on the test and ruins the curve for everybody else. That's all of Adapting stats. It's really annoying, to be honest with you.
The rest of his squad, too.
Yeah, all of Energy are that way, but Adapting in particular, Vote is the only guy who's close to Adapting. In fact, even in deaths per game, Vote is historically a guy we talk about, being too aggressive, pushing up too far, trying to make the hero plays. But the stats say that at LAN, that's really not the case. He plays very safe and does quite a bit of damage, too. His damage numbers aren't low for how low his deaths are.
Yeah, I mean, he's very, very strong. And his team can understand him, and that's all that matters, I guess, because he comes through and he's able to just sort of pilot whatever the hell he wants. I mean, you give him he's got a really large god pool, and he's able to really do whatever he wants. I like to see the Uller come out, and Uller's been kind of popular this weekend, so we might be able to see some of that.
Yeah, his Kernanos is really strong as well. Definitely has enough of a god pool in the hunter role that you're not worried about what he's going to be playing there. He can play a multitude of different styles, but at the end of the day, Hunter is kind of all the same when you reach 45 minutes. I'm holding left click and I'm killing you, and Vote does that really well.
Right there, Kivo Fred getting the easy one. And Kivo Fred has been a very popular player this split. A lot of talk about, Adapting's been the best jungler for so long. Andy sort of was his only competition and sort of left. And now Kivo Fred has snuck up there. Questions if Kivo Fred is the best jungler in the world have absolutely been the hot topic.
I mean, if you just watch the online portion of the fall split, I think Kivo was the best jungler in the world. And we've talked so much about, the fall of Energy and whether or not Adapting was playing on the same level. But I think that it's time to start moving away from that and start moving towards giving credit to guys like Kivo Fred and the rest of Europe and the rest of the world who have really elevated their level of play very, very quickly. Kivo in particular, I mean, he's been one of the best junglers in the world for a long time now, but the way that he works with this team, the way that Dignitas allows him to get some pressure on that right-hand side and allow him to have enough space and freedom and farm in order to make those big highlight plays. He can also play the frontline style of junglers like the Robin. He's the one that makes Robin jungle look great more than anybody else. He plays it like a hybrid between frontline and assassin. He can fill a lot of different roles for Dignitas, and he can do them really well.
Well, hopefully he'll be able to do it today. Dignitas versus Rival coming very soon. We're going to do a break. We'll see you right soon. They killed Chalk and Anubis to get Izanami and Ares. Are you for real?
I'm not joking when I say that Tom, that's the first time you've seen this video, and Anubis dies, and he's like, no! like, how do they do this? It's literally your two favorite characters, which is honestly my favorite part about it.
I feel like the writer like looked at my profile and was like, what does he play? Next up is Naja and Freya. They're just dead.
We can only hope. I actually like Naja and Freya, but it's funny to me that you like them and they would die. So I think it's worth.
That's actually really dark.
It's worth the bit.
That's
you know what I mean?
Really dark.
Well, you know.
You've been hanging out with Ron too much.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Any amount of hanging out with Ron is too much.
Fair. Right now, Dignitas and Team Rival trying to go head-to-head right now. Just a couple of little speed bumps that we have heading into this one. Picks and bans were rather interesting. Focusing on the Zeus and Odin, I think, from Team Rival, whereas Dignitas have a rather standard draft for them with the accent of a Thoth.
Yeah, Thoth in the mid lane there, 4 zeros, and that's a big deal because the two picks that he really likes, the Chronos, the Soul, those were banned away by Rival, and that led to a pick that they knew wouldn't do well into the Odin. And that's what's so interesting is that Rival picks Odin in the first 3 selections and means that they're kind of tipping their hand. You know, we know that you don't want to pick something that can get out of this Odin cage. Zeros in the mid lane has been very, very successful during the Season 4, but has not shown a ton of picks. It's been pretty much limited to the magical ADCs, Freya included, then some Thoth in there. I can't even think of any other ones off the top of my head that he played a lot of. So this is Rival doing their homework, understanding what Zeros is comfortable with, understanding what he's going to want to play in that mid lane. And even despite the threat of being locked in that Odin cage all the time, even with Raijin open, he goes for the Thoth. Now, will Trix Tank get an early Phantom to try and get him out of that cage? We'll have to wait and see.
And, you know, doing your homework, that's kind of where Rival excels. That's I think what has gotten them as a team this far, coming all the way from their Cyclone days, you know, working with 2 very, very strong coaches. You see Coach Hazer, who's moved on to Obey, who just won their last set.
Yeah.
And now with Alpha Jackal, who's done a fantastic job in his own right, joined us on the desk yesterday. Just about a minute or so until we get in the game, folks. Thanks for bearing with us. I think it's going to be a really fantastic set coming up. So, you know, I'm just excited.
And I talked to Deathwalker the other day, right before the LAN started, about, you know, how would you describe your team's play style? And he described Team Rival as a very numbers-oriented team. A lot of teams, you know, Dignitas in my mind, one of them, just say, give me this god and I kill, and I'm just going to go and deal enough damage. You know, I'm going to make sure that I know the right builds and the reason why they're good. You know, I'm not saying that they just copy-paste what other players are doing, but it's just as simple as we're going to outplay you. Rival is one of the teams that will outthink you, will try to work their strategies around how the map plays and how you play the map in particular. So it's not just Rival playing their game, it's Rival playing their game while you're trying to play your game and how those two are going to interact. And so it's no surprise to me that Alpha Jackal, you know, before this set is talking about, you know, we're going to try and play around Dignitas and what they like to do instead of just ignoring what they like to do and going for our own sort of strategy.
I mean, Dignitas come with so much power. It feels like a chainsaw versus like a Swiss Army knife, right?
Sure.
Where just the raw, pure power coming out from the guys on Dig. Whereas when you look across the way, Rival, sometimes they do have that pure power, but instead they rely more on the adaptability and the fact that they have so many things in their arsenal. Whereas I'm not calling Dignitas one-dimensional by any extension of the imagination, but in comparison to Rival, I mean, Rival just have so many tricks up their sleeve.
And Dignitas isn't trying to trick anybody. There's no, you know, oh, you know, we might have some spice come in this land. It's like, no, we will play our gods. We will kill you. Like, that's the way that Dignitas is in all facets. I mean, even talking to Zeros during his interview, it was, you know, I'm talking about players and how excited they are for Worlds and, you know, what it would mean to them to go to Worlds and play on that stage. And Zeros is very just like, you know, he's excited, obviously, but he doesn't want to let on just how excited he is. He's like, no, Worlds will be fun, but I just want to win.
Zeros is the original Bond villain.
Like, Zeros would literally go play in our back alley if it meant that he got to beat you. Like, that's all he cares about is winning. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter when. We could call Zeros up and be like, yo, dude, your set's at 2 a.m. He'd be like, great, see you there. Like, I will destroy. Like, that's just the way it's going to be.
Headphones on, hoodie up, just like ready to go. That's always been Zeros, even back in the SK days when he was playing with Reels and everybody. Just like, hey, man, fine. You want me to play in the jungle? I'm playing Vulcan. I'm playing Giannis, and we're still gonna win.
Yep.
Zeros just does zeros, and I think that's a big reason as to why Team Dignitas has been so successful. It's Variety's new team, of course, but I think Zeros is a very, very big part of that squad, not just on the battlefield, but also up here and in the comms.
The dude's a genius when it comes to Smite. I mean, we're just talking about the numbers and all the things that Rival go through, but Zeros does that for Dignitas all by himself in a lot of ways. This is a guy who is not, you know, he's not confined to any sort of meta. Remember, at the beginning of Season 4, everyone thought Soul was left in the garbage after losing the Fatalis effect on Disapparate. Zero's one of the first guys to bring her out and be like, no, you know, I'm destroying people with this god, and all of a sudden Soul's really good in the mid lane, in large part because of how Zeros can play her. He's playing Freya in the mid lane. Kronos is the same way. Everyone thought Kronos was toast, and he's playing Kronos in the mid lane. I mean, even think back to the Season 2, Season 3 days, Zeros is playing Thanatos middle with tank boots right off the bat because he can rotate around the map and abuse that early pressure that Thanatos can give you. He can absolutely do it all in that mid lane and have a lot of success doing it.
Well, right now, we're going to head into game. Game number 1 is a best-of-5 series here, and the victor will head to HRX. The loser will head down into the group stages. But right now, Rival and Dig, let's bring us the business. Wolfie on the Z-Man here, and then his support, Fafnir. Kalas has played the Fafnir. This is an official stat. 700 times this split.
Is that official?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That wouldn't surprise me. I mean, he loves this god. He has a lot of success on it. And you know what the worst part about this start for me, though, is that I spent all this time talking about Zeros and how smart he is and how he's coming up with great stuff. And then my man buys 2 items and sells them to put the Warlock Sash start in the 3rd item slot just to tilt me right off the bat.
I love it. I like that's, again, Zeros just being Zeros, doing things just a little bit differently.
Arco used the purification beads there off the stun from Kalas for really no reason at all to get a little bit of extra poke on Devote and Kalas,
Yeah.
a little bit too excited potentially in that duo lane. No reason to use your relic there. Now that means that another hammer stun onto him could mean big damage.
Tricks right now taking big damage. A couple more basics is going to do it. Strong body blocks coming out from Arkle is going to really prevent his Ganesh from falling to the wayside this early on. Potions will tick.
And then that, because Kalas uses the hammer to go for poke on the Trix tank, it means that Dignitas is the one with better clear in that lane. I mean, Trix tank's Turn of Fate is going to go through the enemy gods and go to the wave. Arkill's Ricochet will do the same. Now Dignitas just get the minis off of these 2 buffs. This is very reminiscent of how Season 4 started with the duo lanes going and just getting the minis off these buffs to try and hit level 2.
Trix tank jumping back in the lane after taking a little bit of poke, but nothing really to be concerned about. Our duo lanes here, are we going to see the full invade or the safe play?
Looks like they're going to go for the safer play. Could be Oracles here being the call for Team Dignitas, but with Ice Baby and Wolfie getting the pressure in the mid lane, that means that it would have been an uneven engagement in Rival's favor. So good decision from Dignitas to go for their own red buff instead, but it looks like Ice might want to try and poke his head in, see if he can steal it away. No, instead, just going to head straight to the back camps, doing what Cherio was trying to do quite a bit of during their Obey and Elevate set.
Big difference, though, as far as the gods that Cherio is playing versus the Odin. Odin, I mean, even this early on, the Bird Bomb virtually just deletes the back camp. I think level 4, level 5, you don't even have to basic them anymore.
Ice just kind of lurking. I don't know if Dignitas know he's here, trying to steal away this purple buff, and he's going to do so successfully. Nice jump over by Arco to make sure that he didn't get poked out. But a sneaky Odin in the enemy jungle ends up paying off a little bit for Rival.
That's one of the nice things that Odin does have at his disposal early on, is the fact that he is basically a hog. Him and Bakasura can really just like, that's mine. What are you going to do about it? He has larger burst than any other character at this point in the game.
And that's not only just securing the buff, but doing a ton of damage to the enemy gods as well, potentially. So even if, that's a big play by Arco to recognize a sound cue and jump up and over it, because going down to half HP means that Arco's got to use his health potions and use his multi-potions. He's already used one of each. And using those last few resources to get some health regen whenever you've got a Bluestone pendant instead of a Death Toll means that could have ended up in an earlier trip back to base for Arco. And it's kind of like a game of chicken between ADCs right now in the meta. Who can stick around a little bit longer, get that 2,000 gold farmed up, start your Devourer's Gauntlet stacks very early, and get a head start on those stacks. Otherwise, you have to back earlier, get your boots finished, and then you're really delayed in how far you're stacking.
And that's going to dictate pretty much the entirety of that lane. Brief pause as we're waiting for Team Dignitas, and talking about those stacks, it's the ripple effect where one affects the next, and that lane just becomes really, really difficult to deal with. Thank you very quick. And we're back at it. Team Rival, Dignitas, game number 1. Vote and Collis, Arkle and Trix. Very active dueling so far.
So we've seen a lot of action, like you just mentioned, on the left side of the map for Rival, and in the mid lane with Ice Ice Baby stealing away back, stealing away purple. But what that means is that on the right side, Deathwalker is at an inherent disadvantage because Cubo Fred started there with Variety. It was Dignitas who got the Fire Elementals. It's Dignitas who have controlled that right-hand side, buffs as well. So now you're looking at, can Deathwalker stay even with Variety in this lane? Now, Variety's got a little bit more XP per minute right now, but that will start to normalize fairly soon.
Well, Collis behind enemy lines. Going to be doubled up on here. Nice little stop. And the sun's coming down, but a jump away, and Collis is quickly out of harm's way.
Trix knew that Collis still had the jump there. It looked like a pretty free kill for Dig, considering that both their duo lane members were level 5, whereas Collis was only sitting at level 4. But the wave had not been cleared yet by Rival, and that was going to give Collis level 5. Not only that, but had the jump still available anyways.
Big damage on Variety. Ice Ice less concerned about the kill and more about the gremlins over there. A lot of experience. And Ice Ice Baby on this Odin, off to a nice start. As we said, no kills just yet, but just his ability to sort of bully the opposition away from their jungle camps has been nice.
A little bit surprised that Ice Ice Baby went for the sprint here instead of the blink. There are a couple targets that you really want to blink ult very quickly on Team Dignitas, really just Thoth being the main one. If Cubo Fred engages, you want to be able to use that cage to lock him down, because through the Cosmo is the only way for Ratatosker to get out of that cage. And even if Variety ultimates, you want to be able to drop that cage very quickly. But a lot of times it's going to be Ice Ice Baby who's going to be Rat ulted or Bellona ulted. So he's really relying on that to kind of put himself in a position to get initiated on, drop the cage. He may end up falling in these engagements, but as long as he gets the cage down before he falls, it'll set up Wolfie and Kalas and Vote to do the rest of the damage for him.
The sprint is also going to counteract some of the slows. I think most importantly, Arkle's sons, he'll be able to sprint, not just himself, but his teammates. Most importantly, looking at Wolfie, who doesn't really have a traditional escape. So the sprint's going to be able to help Wolfie while still allowing him to pick up what I think is the necessary Aegis.
Plus, it does give you some counterplay just in case Variety decided to go for a horrific emblem like Deathwalker has for Team Rival. You don't want to get caught out not having a sprint in an early engagement against horrific emblem. I mean, look what happened to Luminosity against Space Station, where Scary D comes around the back level 1 and mid, pops horrific, and Homie gets a double kill because of it.
Cubo Fred getting just a little bit of taste of a stun as he walks his way into the lane. Not too big of a deal. Vote's going to get his own buff here as supports have left the lane. And the Amusing Cobb should generally have control here versus the Hou-Yi, albeit a difficult time at it. But Cubo Fred in the sky looking for somebody. I think they thought Vote was a little bit more lonesome, but he's got a whole slew of teammates there in his back jungle.
I like that idea, though, from Cubo. So many times we see Thor players and Rat players use their ultimate in a kind of preemptive nature, and then when they realize they aren't getting any value out of it, they use it to maybe go get farm. They land on a wave in order to clear it a little bit faster. And while if you're far away from the wave, yes, that means that at least you're getting something out of the ultimate. It also tells the opposition that your ultimate's on cooldown. There, for Cubo, he just lands right back where he started and makes sure that Rival have as little information as possible. For all Team Rival knows, Cubo Fred's ultimate could be coming at any time.
Exactly. And so, you know, hiding that information is always important. You never want to give the slightest bit to the opposition, because then they, you know, just more tools to work with here. Ice Ice Baby at level 8. I mean, he's got to be able to make a play if he wants to be aggressive. Has to look for it soon. Variety taking some damage, not going to dish it back. Deathwalker out of range of the hammer.
Odin's going to be doing the majority of his burst damage from right around now until about level 13 or so, whenever he's got both the lunge and the Raven Shield maxed out, the two abilities that combine to make that bird bomb so potent.
And so that's why, you know, right about now is why, that's why you see that little setup from Collis. Ice Ice Baby at 8, this is where he's looking to go. He's online, and if you look across the way, the Ratatasker, he's got his nut online as well. So both of these junglers going to be in the position to look for a gank.
Two junglers that want to fight in the early game for sure, and certainly at this time with those power items completed. But if you look at the mid lane items, it's Wolfie who's got a little bit of an advantage there. Both mid laners going for that Warlock Sash, but it's Wolfie with a pretty significant lead in stacks, more than doubling what Zeros has thus far. And those health stacks a little bit more important for Zeus in my mind anyways, because Thoth can get in and out. I mean, the cage is going to become problematic very quickly for him, yes, but outside of that Odin ring, Zeros has that evade and punish dash to get out of danger. Wolfie is just in danger as soon as he is, and the only way to get out of danger is to either die yourself or get a kill on whoever's on top of you.
Turn and burn is generally what we see. 4 players deep is Team Dignitas, and still opting to play it safe. And Ryan, I think that has a lot to do with the build path that our mid-mages have chosen to go.
Both mid-mages definitely want to finish off their penetration boots or their cooldown boots just to get a little bit more mobility, get a little bit more power as well. At this stage, Warlock Sash is giving you a decent chunk of power, but not as much that you'd really like to burst someone down very, very quickly. Even someone like Trix Tank is going to be able to survive a little bit longer than Wolfie would really like, at least until he can finish off those boots. Now, backing to base and getting those boots too completed is a good start for him. I like this idea. You don't want to be too greedy by staying out in your lane forever. You want to back as soon as you can a lot of times in order to get vision. He's picked up a sentry ward, and this allows Rival and Wolfie in particular to be a little bit safer. Against a god like Ratatosker who wants to gank a decent amount, you need to have good ward coverage to know when he's using that ultimate, to know when he's going to be trying to come behind you, because if Cuvafred can get the jump onto Wolfie, it's going to be hard to burn him before he gets burned himself.
Yeah, and that's okay. Just the oracles. I thought we were going to see the Cold Fury, but not quite, because that's something that Team Dignitas have to be aware of, is the fact that Rival do have one. They've got the Music combo with the Fafnir combo, plus an Odin, a strong Odin and a Zeus. You have Zone, Kill, and Secure on that Gold Fury. Dignitas have to be wary.
But, I mean, Zeros is playing a Thoth, which can shoot that Gold Fury and steal it away from a really far distance without being close enough to get even zoned away by that cage.
Ring him. Kill him.
But if you're using Zeus ult in order to try and burn gold, you're not going to be able to use it there. There's going to be a bit of a give and take between that Zeus ult being used to burn the objective or try to burn Zeros.
Exactly, but you know, Zeros shows his face. You're just like, well, my objective is now Zeros, not the Gold Fury, right? So I don't know. It's definitely something that should be on the players' minds. Whether or not it's the right call right this second, that's quite a different story. 30 seconds till the big guy shows his face, and still scoreless here in the early stages.
This is classic Dignitas. They like to play the game nice and slow. These are veteran European players, and what do veteran European players like to do? Take it to the late game and beat you there. Look at what Obey and Elevate just had their set. I mean, how many long games did we watch there? Now, these two compositions, if it gets into the super late game, we're talking 45 minutes or so. That's going to favor Dignitas in my mind, just because Thoth is going to be doing more than the Zeus can really do, as well as Bologna's a bit better of a team fighter later on in the game than the Osiris is. But for the next 10 minutes or so, I really do favor Rival's composition. Don't be surprised to see Dignitas unwilling to take fights for the next 10 minutes or so, because this is where that composition for Rival becomes really, really potent. It's the damage from Zeus now with the penetration boots finished off. It's the damage from Odin still being very relevant. It's AMC still doing more damage than you're really ready for as a hunter at this stage of the game. And of course, Osiris is still being absolutely dominant right now. This is a great time to fight for Rival. As soon as Vote finishes off an Executioner, don't be surprised if Rival want to start trying to force some fights around that Gold Fury pit, or even trying to push down an objective like a tower.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying that a while ago, and as soon as the Odin hits like level 8, level 9, that's when you kind of want Odin to start doing things. And this team as a whole, like you said, right about now, but not going for it.
I like this Stone of Gaia second item for Ice Ice Baby. Stone of Gaia is one of those premier health regen items, has been since the beginning of Smite. But remember that its passive got changed not long ago. Now it gives you damage reduction after you get knocked up, and there are plenty of knockups for which Dignitas can really burn Ice Ice Baby off of. Cubofred's ultimate and that remove obstacles by Ganesh, that dash that stuns and knocks up, both those will proc that Stone of Gaia passive and make sure that Ice Ice Baby is even harder to bring down than normal.
I like the hard commit to the tower so far. Deathwalker was able to bring this right side tower down to about half HP after Variety went back to base, and then calls his jungler up, and they bring it down to about a quarter, maybe even less, just by walking in there and hitting their buttons.
Cuvo going for an Ankile right after finishing off that Acorn. I don't know if I really like it in this particular matchup. I mean, Zeus is going to be doing damage from a little bit farther away than most mages will be. Even if you can hit that chain lightning and proc that Ankile from a distance, the silence aura that goes out around you is it really going to impact him? Now, if Cuvo can put himself in positions where Wolfie's going to be right next to him, then it's excellent. Even making Wolfie wait another half a second to drop that ultimate on top of himself to try and peel via damage is going to be very impactful. So if Cuvo can force the engagements on his terms, where by rat ulting on top of Wolfie, by coming around behind Wolfie and dashing on top of him, this Ankile passive is going to pay big dividends for him. However, if Wolfie's the one who's a little bit more proactive, if it's Kalas finding the stuns or setting up for Wolfie, then it's not going to give him a whole lot, because even that little bit of magical protection, Zeus doesn't really care about. I mean, his base damage is absolutely nuts.
See, I'm on the other side. I absolutely love this, because I assume that Cuvo is just going to be diving Zeus, right? Either by way of the ultimate or the dash. And he's just going to be on top. Maybe even, no, he's got thorns here. But he's just going to be on top of Zeus the whole time. We've already established Zeus doesn't run. Zeus turns and tries to shoot you in the face. So if you get right up there on him and then he hits you and then he's silenced, you're going to eat him in that period of time.
Well, that's why I really like the Thorns, because Wolfie's best version of Peel as Zeus is to lightning storm your feet and then throw the shield at your feet and chain lightning it and try and kill them before they kill you. And all that damage is going to be returned with the Thorn. So I love this pickup for Cuvo. And if Cuvo wants to go for a tankier sort of initiator role on this Ratatosker, and by starting off that Steel Mail, it looks like that is the idea here for Cuvo in the jungle, then yeah, the Ankile works very well. But if he wants to try and 100-0 Zeus, I don't think that you really are too worried about how much damage he's going to do to you, because you're relying that your damage is going to come out first, it's going to come out quicker, and it's going to be a little bit more impactful. Now, with a fully stacked Warlock Sash in the mid lane for Wolfie, it's going to be a little bit harder to do that, so I can see why Cuvo has kind of opted for this initiator role more than the true assassin.
Yeah, it's just that brief moment that you get to breathe, right? And sometimes I think that's all you might need to take that Zeus down. So right now, Zeus zooming, got the speed buff around himself.
Whoa, I wonder what Wolfie did to earn a speed buff. I mean, junglers usually hold on to that real tight as Arkill.
Oh, it's the big one. It's the big one. Vote stuck out. Going to use the Aegis real quick. Thorns pop preemptively, and Cuvo Fred goes in the sky. Vote still alive, so a little bit of action, but still no first blood just yet.
Vote uses both relics there, though, to stay alive, and that's the big takeaway. Ice Baby drops the ultimate, but it's onto Arkill only, and Arkill still had Dive Bomb available, so he's not too worried about an Odin Cage right on top of him. He jumped out very quickly. Good idea there to take the fight whenever you know that the two characters around you that are able to get caged in that fight can just hold on to their escapes, whether it's the Rat ultimate from Cuvo Fred or just the leap itself from Arkill. You're never worried about the Odin as long as you can hold on to those escapes.
I think we should start to expect a little bit more aggression than what we've seen so far. Both mages have hit the 100 stack limit on their Warlock Sashes, which it feels like sort of a gentleman's agreement. We're like,
yeah,
all right, we're both getting Warlock Sash, guys. Let me farm. I'll let you farm.
Yeah, okay. Seems like a good deal. Ice Baby does have Blink now, but the silence is perfect from Trix.
Play.
There's the lightning ultimate from Wolfie, but there was no cage to follow up. What a reaction by Trix.
Some cooldown. Ice wasn't able to go for it, even if he wasn't silenced. So Ice Baby and Wolfie, miscommunication there. I think, that's one of those moments where I think Ice might have even just thought he had it himself. Because he blinks in, he's like, I'm ready to go. Wolfie drops the ultimate, and he's mashing forward, and he's like, oops.
I'm here with a slow.
Right, yeah, Ice just gun gears Smite. Now it's a 2v1 on the right-hand side. Deathwalker with the up-down, but Lona's got a better one and provides a stun. Half HP for the Osiris. Cuvo Fred going to the sky. DW handling both of these players, and there's no tower to fall back to. The knockup is going to be good, but Deathwalker still trying to bring it. 1v2. Variety gets stunned. The Thorns, the jungler. Ice Baby gets Variety already. That's one. Locked up is the Nutman, and the Ratatasker are going to go down to the hand of Ice Baby. And the help of the minions.
Needed the minions there. Cuvo did a great job of juking around the minions of his own. What a fight there by Deathwalker to find the 2v1 nearly all by himself. But good damage by Variety, good communication with Cuvo to trust one another. And I believe that first blood went Dignitas' way. So even though it looks like Rival end up way on top there, it's only by a little bit because that first blood going to Dignitas.
That was like a classic WWE move. Just like, oh no, he's in trouble. And then Ice Baby literally out of nowhere just launches from the jungle. Trix taking a little bit of trouble. He'll likely be safe and sound underneath the tower. Can't say the same about the jungle camp, however. Team Rival successfully invades, and Ice gets a present for his business on the right side of the map.
You were talking about the gentleman's agreement that EU mid laners seem to have. Man, this must be a mid laner's dream to, like, if you ask any mid laner, if you ask any mid laner, hey, you want to play a game where you get to fully stack your Warlock sash and no one really hits you while you do it? You're like, yes. Do I have to move? Where do I go? Like, yeah, I'm down. That's what every mid laner wants, is to have some survivability and the damage all at the same time. To be able to get to 100 sacks on Warlocks without being looked at twice. Yeah. Must be nice, man.
And you know what? It's kind of hilarious how as soon as they hit 100, Ice Baby blinked in the mid lane. He didn't have an ult and nobody died, but kind of funny there. Vote gonna get jumped on real quick. Does have the beads, no longer the Aegis, however. Gonna need it. He's slowed, but he'll be fine here. Low, but back to base. Dignitas win that one as they take out both his relics.
Good relic usage, though, by Vote. Well timed for both the Aegis and the Purification Beads, and I like that order as well. Make sure you can create as much distance between yourself and Arco as possible to get underneath that tower.
Damage! Zeus taking Trick's Tank down to half. A little bit of help from Odin. The Phantom on cooldown. Ice Baby gonna put that one in his brain bank.
That's a good cooldown, good cooldown to bait out when you got an Odin on your team. Getting that Phantom down is absolutely critical. Now, as soon as Trick's Tank gets his dash forced, like he did right there, all of a sudden that fight turns really heavily in Rival's favor. And take a look at the relics that Rival has picked up. A couple upgrades already, quite a few actually. Deathwalker has upgraded both his shell and his horrific emblem. Ice Baby's upgraded his sprint. The shell and the frenzy there for Kalas upgraded as well. So extra penetration and extra damage for extra attack speed, I should say, for everybody on Rival once Kalas used that offensive relic.
Yeah, that frenzy's a really big deal, especially with this composition. It's going to extend Odin's life just a little bit longer. By life, I mean ability to kill stuff. Vote and friends. Surprise Gold Fury. Ice Baby's kind of zoning there, but I think Team Dig just didn't really know too much about it until Arco showed up, and it was basically too late.
This is very Dignitas-like, how Rival have played this game. It feels very much the methodical, you know, we will stand here and you will either fight us or give up Gold Fury, and you don't really have a choice about it. It's always well-timed, too. Zeros was completely out of mana there in the mid lane. That's not a fight that Dignitas are able to take.
Right now, Rat goes in the sky as Wolfie and friends pull out the Portal Demon. Deathwalker zoning. Rat trying to decide offense or defense. Goes to the latter and sits there in the back line. Friday getting stunned out. Portal Demon still pulled out here. Half HP already. Vote doing a lot of the dirty work. Here comes help from Kalas. Frenzy's good as well. Team Rival secure that portal. Kalas taking some damage as DW zones out the entirety of Team Dignitas by himself. Here comes Bologna right over the top, and Arkle dropping the subs.
But a great cage there from Ice Baby. Now it's a Rival who want to re-engage. Look at Wolfie's positioning around the back. Cubo Fred dives into the thick of things right in front of Rival. Everyone is so low on HP.
Wolfie can wrap around the backside and get a quadra kill if all things line up. Team Dignitas a little bit too speedy for Wolfie to go ahead and catch up with. But you know what? This opens the door, and it looks like Team Rival have everything in mind. Ice gonna chase, and everybody else go to the store looking for Fire Giants.
Zero's only one around still for Dignitas that can really try and contest, but he doesn't even have an ultimate. What a fight there by Rival, baiting in Dig, using their HP bars as bait. I mean, Kalas is low. Deathwalker's low. He uses ultimate to get away. Those upgraded relics end up coming up pretty big there for Rival. Those 2 block stacks on Shell, whenever you pop the upgraded version, can be very good, and certainly in a composition where you're worried about Cuvo, Variety, and Arco auto attacking you down, ends up paying dividends.
Frenzy also incredible there. Allow them to burn the objective, burn the opposition. Really big deal with Kalas and that Frenzy, which is an under-purchased item. Absolutely, and here we're seeing it come up big.
Ice looking for the red buff invade. Don't know if he was able to snag that one away, but even without it, the tier 1 tower going down in mid is a good start for Rival's Siege. The second tower down, they got that tier 1 in solo earlier on, whereas Dignitas has not been able to do too much damage to any towers with Rival's name on them, and just a little bit of poke on that right side solo tower.
Team Dignitas and Team Rival separated by about 6,000 gold. Team Rival on the good side of that. And only 3 kills in our 21st minute. 2 of them belonging to Team Rival. Deathwalker and Ice Baby chasing up the enemy jungle while the remainder of their team chasing up in the lane. Looking for the tower, getting about halfway there. Kivo Fred wants to counter invade. Here comes the jump. 2 knockups are good. Frenzy is popped. Wolfie already down to half HP. And Trickstank a little bit too deep. Forced to run and regroup alongside Arkle.
No real sustain here for Rival, but they do have that Fire Giant buff, giving them a little bit of extra HP regen, and that's what they're going to rely on here to try and continue to siege down this tower. Take a look at the available ultimates. Dignitas, they just burned 4. Everyone but Variety used their ultimate. Rival have all 5 available, and that's why Dignitas has given up this tier 2.
One word to describe this game, and I give you calculated.
That's what I was going to say. I thought you were asking me, and I was going to say that.
Were you really?
Yeah, I really was.
I love you. I mean, that's what we do here. But it's just the fact of the matter that Rival have presented a game where that's the only answer. Sometimes we see scatterbrained game plans and a couple of different approaches. Rival have just methodically and surgically taken this game to the bank.
Which is the exact opposite of how this team used to be.
Exactly. That's why I bring it up.
Which is so funny. I mean, Rival used to be the let's just try and get 50 kills in 20 minutes and just see what happens. You know, we'll work it out from there. Maybe we end up on top of this bloodbath. This is the exact opposite of the way that they kind of came storming into the league underneath that Cyclone tag. And it's really been exciting to watch. And I know that it just kind of reminds me of a pitcher's duel in baseball between two, incredible pitchers, where it may not seem like there's a lot going on, but there's so much underneath the surface to make you appreciate how well these teams are playing.
Watch out for the flank. Trickstank around the backside, and Kivo Fred as well. But everybody already lost their HP bars. Kivo Fred's good, but 2 kills come the other way. Ice Baby in the mid lane, and the Hunter combined for 3 separate kills. Arkle in trouble. Ice looking for the jump. Lands on top. The spin to win is strong as well. Zeros is the only one alive. Scratch that. Deicide. Wolfie the only one dead. Everyone else from Team Rival barking down the middle lane. Fire Giant already down for the count. It's the bird.
In the Zeus handbook of what to do when playing Zeus in competitive play, a little gif of Wolfie right there is going to show up. Get all your damage off and die.
Yo, they're going to do it. No way. Frenzy's popped. That's going to help. Half HP on the Titan. Ladies and gentlemen, 24 minutes just like that. Team Rival explode. Take out Dig.